So this is a dangerous drug.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Uniquely Nebraska, a podcast about, well, everything Nebraska. As I'm sure you can tell, I am not Rod Fowler. Fortunately, Rob, we're giving him a break today. My name is Ashley Springman, and I'm here with
Yousef Nasser.
And today we're covering the Josh fight, something really exciting. Both myself and Yousef were there on the scene of the Josh fight, pool noodles flying. Great experience.
I mean, it was crazy. It was something, I've talked to people about it, an internet meme come to life, and, we're happy to be joined by the man behind the event, the one and only Josh Swain. Josh, thank you for joining us to kind of recap what happened.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Josh, just to start us off, in case anyone doesn't really know about the Josh fight or how this all started, give us a little background.
Yes, about a year ago, I was posting jokes as I do on Twitter. I'd always noticed that whenever I went on social media, like the name Josh Swain was always taken. And so I wanted to do something about this. And I thought, clearly not everybody can be worthy of this title. And so that's kind of what led to the joke of me adding a bunch of Josh Swains to the group chat and challenging them to fight for the name. And, what transpired after that was that meme going viral, and then to the event that you see here today. But we can go into that in a little bit if you want.
So is it safe to say that when you made the Josh fight, you were just joshing around?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Josh, when we spoke with you in the aftermath, you were signing autographs and, kind of asked you, how you're reacting to all of this. And you said you've got a billion things going through your mind. Now, you've got a few days of distance to kind of contextualize what happened, process what happened, as you have a few days to kind of reflect on the Josh fight, little Josh, how this whole thing became a global story that did a lot of good for, the Food Bank of Lincoln and, of course, the Children's Hospital in the state of Nebraska. How do you kind of sum up what this whole experience was like?
Yeah, it was just utterly incredible. It's like making a blind half-court shot, and just the blind luck of it, and then people reporting on that event occurring, and just the amount of incredible things that happened. People love the story and think that it was planned thoroughly just for it to happen, but it really wasn't. All the details were really hashed out within the last week.
It is my greatest pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 Josh Swain Fight Battle Royale.
The speech and the rules that I wrote for the pool noodle fight were written in my hotel room the night before. I never had seen or even spoken to anybody from Lincoln really before the week before that. And for it all to come together and everybody to be really nice and courteous and just, put on an incredible event was remarkable and almost miraculous. So
why do you think this resonated with so many people on a global level? What do you think it is about this story that, captivated so many people?
It's a feel-good story. It's just overall pretty wholesome. Aside from possibly the large gathering during a pandemic, not discrediting that whatsoever. I'd love to get into that at some point, or the severity of the pandemic. But I think that people have had a rough year and a rough go of things for the past 12 or so months. And so to finally see a piece of good news is what everybody kind of jumped on. And so for a whole, again, a holistically wholesome story for that to come up, I think is what people really resonated with.
I'm glad you mentioned the global pandemic aspect of this, because people who weren't there didn't see the level of seriousness that you took safety in the lead up to this, passing out masks, encouraging people to wear masks. I don't think that was captured, and because the excitement was the story. Little Josh was the story. The fact that, a self-described normal guy from Arizona is able to put all of this together. You said you wanted to talk about it. What do you think, what would you like to say to people out there, who have expressed concerns about, the fact that this is, a global pandemic, but, this is also something that, brought a lot of people together, went to a great cause, money went to a great cause. What are your thoughts on all of that?
when I first made the joke a year ago, one, I didn't expect the event to happen at all. Also, I also did not expect the pandemic to still have the same severity that it does today. And, when people 3 months ago were saying like, hey, I'm going to drive 7 hours to be here and take pictures, like I realized like this event is going to happen whether I'm there or I'm not. So I'm the only one with any real semblance of authority here. And it's kind of on me to make this an organized thing, give it some form of structure, so that one, people will know that like it's an organized event, that people won't be like scared going, and that they won't, I don't know, be arrested or like there won't be any like real violence. And like two, to emphasize the fact that we would love if people brought masks. And some people are have very strong opinions about wearing masks, and I'm not going to come to your home of Nebraska and tell you what to do. But it was a strong recommendation, and luckily I think the majority of people were wearing masks. So that's something that I really appreciated from Lincoln.
A big theme that you've been talking about is just the wholesomeness, and that's what really brought a lot of people in. So I can't talk about wholesomeness without talking about little tiny Josh. Did you get to interact with him a lot during the event?
I actually was not able to interact with them like a whole lot because one, like we were the two kind of people that were in demand, not to sound, pretentious but like in demand at the time. So people were asking me for pictures, people were asking little Josh for pictures. And so we kind of had to, separate and do our thing. But I have gotten in contact with Josh Sr. and, he's a great guy. Like, and we've been able to contact, I'll be having a phone call with him soon just to, decompress, like unpack the whole thing. I don't know if you saw, but some kind people were able to set up a college fund for little Josh. And so that's also another fundraiser we have going on, as well as Josh Vincent Sr. sent me a link to merch essentially about little Josh that also goes to that fund. So yeah, I think the kid was, the kid's adorable. He's like just the innocent lamb of the whole whole group. So I think it's good that he was the designated winner, because who knows what kind of person what would have done with that, like that title.
Yeah, it's a lot of power to wield.
Right.
And just speaking of fundraisers, your initial fundraiser for the Children's Hospital here in Nebraska, last I checked, has over $14,000 raised. How is that making you feel?
That, I mean, it's unfathomable. Like we didn't have any incentive. There's no like give back. There's no like reward system that we stated. People just gave. Like people just thought it was cool, and they're like, hey, like I'd love to support this. And I think over 300 people have donated to reach that $14,000 mark, and I cannot thank them enough, because not only have they like helped this fund, but they also created this event as well. Just kind of made it what it is.
What'd you kind of know about the state of Nebraska before coming out here for the Josh fight? And what does Nebraska mean to you now that you have the perspective of seeing how so many people from around the country came to this one place, the random geographical coordinates that you kind of designated to kind of hold this event?
Oh yeah, I'm going to be honest. I didn't have as much of a connection. My dad actually was born in North Platte, but he only lived there for a very short time when he was young. And other than that, like I've heard of Lincoln, Nebraska, in Omaha, but never have actually been there. And, before the event even started, or people even knew who I was, like everybody was just so nice and so pleasant. And so the fact that we were able to have a like near 1,000 person gathering that was like nonviolent and just an overall like incredible time really goes to show like who the people of Nebraska are, and just the kind of people that you guys are, and that this might not have been able to happen anywhere else. So again, that's another like lightning striking the same place at the same time.
What was the moment for you that kind of sticks in your mind as you look back at all of this? Because, you during the process, just kind of observing you, like so many people, wanted to talk to you. So like, I don't know if you got a chance to reflect in the moment, but as you look back, what's kind of the enduring image that you kind of hold with you from all of this?
Yeah, I think there's two. So when somebody's yelled 10 minutes to to till 12 o'clock, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And then I'm like still talking to people, people wanted pictures and stuff like that, which was one insane. Like I've never done anything like that before. And then at some point it was like, I gotta go. Like I just gotta go into the circle and be that person. Like usually I overthink. I am a worrywart to no extent, but for whatever reason, like any of those thoughts just took a back seat as it was like, I just gotta, I gotta do this. I gotta say whatever I need to say and run this thing. And then the second one was when Josh Jr. won, and we all ran up, and then I think it was Mike that lifted him up like Simba, and everybody's cheering. And that was just an incredible moment, as well as getting everybody to kneel, and then like as he gave his speech, that was such a cool moment. Just like everybody like overjoyed for like this ridiculous event for no reason, and to be at the heart of it.
I want to ask you just quickly about little Josh, and so after you had your rock paper scissors with Josh Swain, I'm wondering like where were you? Because as journalists we're trying to cover the action. There's so much going on. I didn't see where you were. Were you kind of like officiating the Josh fight? Were you participating with a noodle? Like where were you, and what was like when did little Josh kind of capture your attention? Like, hey, this kid might win it.
No, yeah. So I took it upon myself to abstain from the Josh fight, just to be the adjudicator or like the referee. And I was just held the microphone. I ran back to the spectator side, just kind of like looking around, and it was amazing because everybody was kind of like taking their cue to like fall down, and like after a while, and except this little kid who kept slashing at people's knees, and almost instantly I was like, this kid has to win. Like this kid is gonna, like, everybody would love it if this kid would win, and I think everybody could get behind that. The last two people that weren't him were like kind of duking it out, and then they both took their cue, dipped out, and like that's when I announced the winner. And I think it was a part on everybody for the outcome.
So just kind of going back to the Swain Bowl, as you've called it, between you and Josh Swain of, I believe, Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, yeah.
Were you nervous? Were you kind of think of strategies?
I mean, when I saw that guy, I was like, thank God I turned this into a rock paper scissors tournament. I was like, that you saw him. He's a badass. He has like the studded leather jacket, like sleeveless,
no sleeves, yeah,
incredible hair. Like he was also super nice. Like it's just a super cool dude, and such a good sport about it. And he came all the way from Omaha. He was a worthy opponent.
I'm kind of curious. So, doing some research, you're a civil engineering major at the University of Arizona, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So you're set to graduate and enter the job market, but in putting together the Josh fight, I'm wondering if, because there's a lot of skill sets that go into putting together something like that. Are you still set on that civil engineering path, or do you think that the Josh fight might have opened up other opportunities that you might want to explore?
Yeah, it's a really, really hard question to answer. Like a lot of people have been asking like, hey, do you want to do something like this again next year? And that's kind of the same, like I said before, it's kind of like asking, hey, do you want to do a blind half court shot again? And it's like, yeah, I mean, that would be awesome, but like it's hard to plan that. It's hard to like execute that. Like maybe we could do a 3-point shot, or a free throw. Like if we did this event again, it would have to be like a lot more controlled, a lot less spontaneous. But I think, there is definitely that potential there, and it's hard to like see a pile of money on the table, and especially to going to a good cause and not picking it up. So I have no concrete details at this point. Like a lot of other doors have kind of opened up right now, but I'd love to still continue with my path of like going into the engineering field, just seeing what like quote unquote the real world is, and just kind of trying to balance those at the same time. Again, I don't want to give any concrete details, but it's hard to have this much like potential and say no to it. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated with anything and everything that comes about.
That'd be awesome. I mean, I think with this event, you kind of said it, the authenticity of it, it's really cool that you were able to, just off of an internet meme, bring all of these people together for a good cause. So, I mean, I know Ashley, I mean, it was cool for you, cool for me, the entire team here at Channel 8. So, thank you for putting it together, and thank you for letting all of us be a part of it.
No, yeah. And like the people of Lincoln, like I'm sure they would love to come to another event. Like, especially the students, like why not? Like, why wouldn't you like spend like a Saturday at noon at like some like maybe like a tiny music festival / Josh fight, like especially if it's going to charity. Like I think there's a lot of potential there. But we'll just, we're taking it one step at a time.
All right, Josh, we got to start wrapping up here. Unfortunately, our time on the podcast has come to an end. Is there any last comments you'd like to make before I start closing things up?
You can still donate. You're more than welcome to go to the Children's Hospital and Medical Center Foundation website and donate directly there. But I just wanted to say thank you again to the people of Nebraska, the city of Lincoln. I actually was made an honorary citizen by the mayor. I forgot to mention that. That's the coolest thing. Like that's gonna be like my favorite fun fact to tell of all time. Like whenever I'm doing introductions, and I'll that diploma will be like on my wall forever. But yeah, again, I just want to say thank you so much to the city of Lincoln, to everybody that showed up, to Betsy Walker who reached out to set up the food drive, and everybody that was involved. It was just an incredible event that I'll absolutely never forget.
All right. Well, thank you again, Josh, for taking the time to talk with us today. And I guess welcome to Nebraska now that you're an honorary citizen. For those of you either watching or listening, this has been another episode of Uniquely Nebraska. Stay tuned next week for our next episode.